Welcome to the Harmony Household podcast. As you know, we bring people to the podcast who are doing something real, and today's guest is no exception. He's bringing Latin rhythms, Latin dance to the Connecticut area with an unmistakable New York flair. Christien Olivera of Acacia Latin Dance Company, thank you for joining the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, so happy to have you here. So, of course, we always want to know about the origin story. How did your love for salsa and dance, probably in general, begin?
I'll say my journey started out in high school. My mom had went to an open house, kind of they were showing all the extracurricular activities that were offered at my high school. Went to Cardinal Hayes High School in the Bronx, and at the time they had a salsa club. And my mom was like, "Hey, you should join this and do something after school. You need to stop sitting around at parties." And I didn't want to do it. Again, I was playing baseball. I was super like, ew, no, I don't want to dance. I didn't like listen to Spanish music. My mom was listening to Spanish music while cleaning, and it kind of was getting engraved in my brain. Salsa music equals cleaning, and at the time when I was 13, 14 years old, wasn't my favorite thing to do. So when it came down to going through high school and whatnot, my senior brother who was assigned to me in my high school, we had a freshman. Well, I was a freshman. We were like assigned a senior brother. He was the captain of the salsa club, and of course, I ended up joining because he kind of like, hey, you need to come here, come do this, and I ended up really liking it. We had like a performance, and one day I would show it, but it was really bad. But I knew I enjoyed dancing to some extent at the time, and then I came across a dance studio, which is another whole long story. Um, and then from there, the rest is history. Never looked at a baseball mitt again. So I had to thank like three people. My mom, for sure.
Mhm.
Joshua, who was my senior brother at the time, where me and him are still very very close. It's funny to see how he looks at my dad's videos and he's like, "Hey, I remember when you first started," and it's insane. And of course, I would have to thank my best friend Tati. She was actually the first person I met in the dance studio that I joined, and from there, everything just kind of went up. From there, I ended up really enjoying it. Never looked at a baseball mitt again.
It was like you were destined for this from early on. Your path was paved, and there were people along the way to just kind of hone you in
Yeah,
and say,
exactly.
"This, no, just trust me. This is where you need to follow. This is where you need
Yep.
to go. This
I
is
do
so
thank them for
cool."
that, for sure. Yes.
Wow, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. I don't know if I shared this with you, Christian, but for probably at least a good year on Instagram, I would scroll and I would see the Acacia Latin Dance Company's videos. I would see things. I'm like, oh, that is so neat. Maybe I'll learn like the ins and outs of salsa dancing. It took me a whole year to ever decide to just go to the website and inquire. And I'm so glad that I did. Um, it's a great experience. So anyone who ever goes to you will really enjoy the experience. But
Thank you.
what was the moment in time? Was there a moment in time where you decided that you wanted to take your passion for dancing and what you had acquired over the years and turn it into a business to help other people or show other people like the music, the dance, the culture?
Ooh, that's a nice
Loaded
one. That's a
question.
good one. That's a good one. So fun fact: when I started dancing, all the way until I'll say 2022, which was so 2014 to 2022, teaching, owning a dance company was not in my vision of things to
Mm,
do. For sure, it wasn't. Not that it wasn't a goal, but it just wasn't an idea that I think I would pursue, or I guess a venture that I would pursue, if I would say. So when I was living, so I had moved to Connecticut in 2022 um, from New York, and I was still dancing on the team. And at the time, I was traveling. I believe it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. It was 3 days out of the week. So I was traveling through back and forth from New Britain via Amtrak.
okay.
Um, and then I would, I was still doing my master's program. I was working full time, so it was just a lot to juggle. So there was one point where I said, I am tired of traveling. I am tired of doing this. Don't get me wrong. I had a great experience dancing on these teams, and I was traveling and I was doing everything that I wanted to do. Because in the salsa community, there's like a growth, I guess, ladder that we go through, especially in the New York salsa scene of, hey, like I want to do, you gotta do semi-protein, protein, and you want to travel. You know, there's a lot of people you look up to. You want to be a part of these companies and whatnot. So I was following that kind of traditional path. And then at one point, I was like, hey, I can't do this travel and try to pursue a master's program and then still do X, Y, and Z and then still maintain my relationships back in Connecticut, which, you know, like my friendships and all that fun stuff. So it's like, well, how can I do both? So one day, this is honestly how it happened. I kid you not. So one day I was like, I'm gonna teach a class. Very impulsive, very random. I was like, okay, I found a studio, which was Passion Dance Studio, and I said, hey, I could teach a class here. I made a flyer. It took me like 2 months to post it, but I had the flyer. But I posted the flyer, and you know, imposter syndrome hit, and I'm like, hey, because again, like I am, I guess I have this mindset of how things are supposed to go based on what I've been used to in the New York salsa scene. And I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? Like, how am I gonna? How do I do this? And mind you, I know I have the skill. I know I have the talent. You know, I learned from a lot of different people, and I know I trained enough to be able to teach. But again, I was just like, hey, like I said, I'm gonna teach a class. And then honestly, like I didn't realize how many people were gonna come to the class, and I said, oh, this is nice. Okay, cool. And I did have a lot of people show up, and of course, it's especially offering something different. New York South Side's not here in Connecticut. It's salsa on two. Being that Connecticut is strictly salsa on one. Not strictly, but for the most part, it's overall a salsa on one community for sure. And then I said, okay, so now I have something to offer. Now this is something that I can start growing, and that was all honestly off of that one class, and it just started off as one class, and then from there I realized the interest level and how much people wanted to learn, and I also saw that hey, I can teach, I can do this. I love interacting with people, so it was just like okay, it's just something I can do, and honestly, it was just an impulsive decision that turned into to this, and um, I didn't have any plan. I swear I did not have any plan. I did not walk into this saying I'm going to do this performance team. No, honestly, the performance teams and everything came after the fact. Like I wasn't looking to do that. I honestly was just trying to maintain my passion while also living the life that I was living in Connecticut, maintaining that life. Whether it be personally, financially, because travel to Amtrak isn't fun either. So I was just trying to figure out a new avenue on how to pursue a passion while still maintaining my personal life, and that's kind of how that happened.
So that's quite interesting just to see how it unfolded. Seemed like it was very organic for you, and out the gate, you experienced a level of success. So I am sure that was the fuel that you probably needed to keep you pushing forward. As you were going through this process, this transition, the new beginnings, did you experience any challenges? Now you're an entrepreneur, right? You went from teaching classes, now you're holding classes. Or I'm sorry, you were a student, then now you're holding classes. Did you experience any challenges early on that you can recall that it was like this was challenging, and how did you address those?
Whew, okay, we love the questions. um, I'll say one of my biggest challenges for sure was just learning my community and learning that what I was so again like in New York, I never taught a class there. I was always either I was a student or I was a dancer on a team. For the most part, I was a dancer on a team. Just hey, being told what to do
Was
and doing it. So the challenge for sure was stepping out of that and understanding that you have to create the community that you want.
mm,
Because now it's like I can't bring that energy that I was given from these dancers who are world renowned, who are doing X, Y, and Z, and now I can't expect people who are just here to learn and here to first timers and understanding the community. I can't expect them to have that. So instead, I had to mold, I guess, the kind of dance community that I want to be a part of, that I always wanted to be a part of, honestly. Because everything that I was accustomed to wasn't always righteous, I'll say.
Hmm.
in different regards. Great, again, great experiences, but it's also there's a lot of things that needed to be fixed. So I'm like, hey, if I'm doing something from scratch, I can mold it, I can create it the way that I think it should, and what works, and it's been working. But it's like it was separating myself as the dancer versus now as a leader, as an instructor, as a mentor, is that bridging that gap of like, hey, how can you allow these people to trust your leadership, how you have your students trust your instruction and trust your knowledge. And that was kind of, I wouldn't say it was a big challenge, but it definitely was, especially when you're like, who is this guy teaching? Like, who is this guy and where does this guy come from?
Yeah.
And for me, I never came with an ego. I never came with you need to take class with me. I just wanted to interact with people and let people know like, hey, you have a space for you to grow and learn. There's a lot of knowledge that I possess, a lot of resources that I have in terms of people, instructors, mentors that I still work with. That, hey, I can give you what I have. Just trust me and just trust me and just let's make things happen. So I guess that was the biggest challenge for sure.
Yeah.
Because no one knew me. No one was like, who, they saw my face on Facebook, like, who's this guy? So it's like, just allowing people to trust for sure,
It's no small
especially in a small
feat.
community. Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
I'll
it's
say,
especially in a small community, a very small salsa community. So I know, like, now I know that, like, who's it? They're like, who's this instructor? Who's this guy? Where did this guy come from? So it's just that for sure. So sorry, Cheryl.
no, no, I'm sorry. I was going to say it's no small feat. It's great that you were able to see or, identify kind of the culture that you want to create, pull from what you liked from New York, bring it to Connecticut. And, but I can say personally, it's a very inclusive space. So whether, I would probably in dance terms be like old, but just, so I,
Girl.
but, but reality, I mean, I am not the typical age of a dancer, but to be able to come into a space where I can feel welcome and then you can see the ability and tailor to it or teach to that. I mean, it shows your strength as an instructor and just kind of how you see people. So I appreciate that, and I think that's very valuable too in what you're creating in culture, is that people can come with all levels, all abilities, everything. So is that something that's really important to you as well? Just inclusivity in that in your community at Acacia.
Absolutely. Just to touch on age, like for me, like I am a firm believer that it's never too late.
Mm,
It's never too late to start at all. So for me, a lot of people, not that they don't, I think everyone knows that it's never too late to start. But what happens is in a community that's predominantly young and
mm.
it's predominantly like you have dancers, like my dance partner, Maureen, she started dancing at like 3, so it's like, it's, it's, it's all, there's different times in people's lives that people join things and like learn about themselves or like, hey, I like this, and I want to make sure that people, no matter what age or no matter what gender you identify as, sexual orientation, or whatever the case may be, that disability, anything, that you always have a place. And I think that's super important because again, community is super big, and that's one of the pillars of Acacia, is just understanding that you still dance isn't limited based on one like based on a trait that you have or based on an ability that you have. I feel I seen people in wheelchairs do a full blown salsa routine.
Wow.
So it's like it doesn't necessarily, not that it doesn't matter, because of course it matters to us as people, but for Acacia it's like, hey, there's going to be a way you're going to enjoy this and we're going to find a way for you to enjoy it. And I think it's super important because again, we can't have community if we don't have diversity, so we need to, you know put in perspective that community is what's going to move us as a company, and also just as people. I want to be able to look to my left and my right and not know that everyone's the same. I want diversity. I want people to different cultures, different speaking different languages and everything. I love the diversity, especially at Acacia. I've noticed that we have a very diverse group of dancers, a very diverse group of students, and it honestly fuels me because now you're tapping into different things. I'm learning a lot about myself. I'm learning a lot about different people, and it's great. It's definitely one of the big pillars that we have. One of the most prominent ones. And I think it's super important just so people can just enjoy dance. Dance is like a body language. We all have bodies, we have to use them. So that's kind of where I stand with that for
I
sure.
love it.
So you mentioned that it was one of your pillars. What are some of the other pillars that are a part of your company, and how do you deliver that message to the public?
Okay, that's a good one. Okay. Um, well, the main pillar is honestly, which I stand strong on, is discipline. Heavily. The reason being is that one of the things I did pull from my time in New York is the discipline that it takes to be a dancer, to train, to understand what you're doing, to learn the music, learn the history, and practice and train and train and train. Because where the only, I would say the only caveat that I have with just how dance is structured, and this is no fault of any instructor per se. I just think that for me, dancing has never been a laxed thing. It's, yes, it can be. Some people just want to have a good time. Some people just want to learn a little two step and so they could dance at the parties, and it's just perfectly fine. I love that. I love that. I guess again, everyone does it for a different reason, right? But for me, it's like the same way that ballet has like a structure, jazz has a structure, hip hop has a structure. Um, there's a structure in dance, but it's a little, and salsa, but it's a little more lax, right? It is a little more lax, just kind of how it's getting better for sure. There's a very universal, syllabi that people are using now, and it's great. Um, but in terms of discipline, it's like, hey, you want to learn how to dance, you have to you have to understand the history. You have to work. Salsa is rooted in struggle, regardless. We're going back down to the roots of back all the way back to slavery, right?
Mm.
So it's like we want to also pay homage to the people who worked to get salsa on the map. Like, go take class. Like, if before you teach, please go take class.
Mhm.
If you want to perform on a team, you need to take class. If you cannot get this right turn for the love of you, go take class. Because I think it's kind of just instilling discipline, but also that discipline kind of translates to different aspects of your life. Like, if you work towards something, you're going to get it. I guess hard work beats talent every single time. So that's kind of why I instill a lot of discipline in my students, not just my performance teams, my students too. Like, we have an 8 week syllabus that we work with, and like it's progressive. And if by the 6th week we're having a hard time with this right turn, we have to talk. So
Right.
it's kind of
Yeah.
like we had to instill that, just so. And the reason why it's still that, so that way you can become a better dancer. You can be the best version of yourself. And that's one of like the really, like, the most prominent pillars that we have. And I hold my students accountable all the time. I said, you didn't practice last week, And again, it's not in a sense of like shame or anything. I think that everyone learns at a different pace. Like, if people want to repeat the cycle 7 times, that is perfectly okay. I prefer that. It's just awareness. So it's like, I want people to understand that this is something that we work for. You're not gonna come in for one class and like, "Woo, I'm a salsa dancer." Yeah,
Right.
it takes work. Everything that you want to do and you want to be great at it takes work, and that's why I instill the discipline, especially with my students and my teams. I tell my students all the time: take videos of yourself. Look in the mirror. Aside from going to class, I feel like you learn so many things in taking the dance class and just being a part of a dance company, because those things translate to life.
Mm.
Like, I have an instructor. He actually teaches at Acacia. I think he's Mike Garcia, one of my close and dearest friends. Um, he always told me something, and he always said, "Your mirror is going to be your best friend and your worst enemy." I was like, "Oh, excuse me."
Right.
In life, that's what it is. Sometimes you have to look at yourself and like, "Oh, I have to fix this.
Mhm.
I like this. I need to change this." It's the same thing. It translates. If you can't look at yourself and understand the good and the bad, it's very hard to maneuver through life. So it's kind of that, or like, hey, if you want to be good at something, you have to consistently practice. Like, if you want to get, if you want to pass this class in school, you need to consistently study. If you want
Mhm.
to, if you want to get good at a craft, you have to consistently practice your craft.
No, that's great though. I think, it's true. I think if you want to become better at anything, it requires the repetitions, the
Yep.
10,000 hours, whatever it is. And I think what you're
Exactly.
talking about, the cultural connection as well. So when you can have the technical skill, but also understand the culture of it, then when you
Right.
are out, even if it is social dancing or if it's a
Right.
performance, you're able to dance it with the understanding of the culture, how you got there, and the technical aspects makes you
Right.
a well-rounded dancer, in my opinion. Yeah.
No, 100%. And you brought up social dancing because another thing too is that a lot of the classes that are taught here, which again, no fault on any instructor. Listen, it's very social based, right? So my idea is that if you, and this is again, I do not fault it, and I love it. Like it's not that I don't like it. The problem is that just stepping back, hindsight is 2020. So it's just like if you're teaching classes at a anytime you teach a class at a bar or like a club or a lounge, you automatically assume social setting.
Mm.
So it's like, hey, I'm gonna learn this right turn. Huh? Let me get a drink, and that's perfectly okay. But what happens is that it's hard to like lock in those settings. So that's why I was like, I'm only teaching at first. Now I do the same thing that I'm talking about. I do teach at social events, lounges, bars, and but I wanted to teach in the studio because it's like learning how to do the Pythagorean theorem at a club.
Right.
So it's like so it's gonna be hard to focus. There's a lot of things going on, so it's like it's I want to teach at a studio to kind of like structure, like you need to know this. Here's what we're doing. We're here for an hour. Then you could go to a social. So it's
Right.
like it's that kind of setting that I appreciate that I was, that I'm actually grateful that I was able to do. Um, but again, it's everyone's doing it for different reasons, so it also ties down to that. But I actually love this. I really love the Connecticut salsa community for sure. It's very welcoming with open arms. So I have nothing
Yeah.
bad to say. It's just different. Again, it goes back to diversity. The more diverse kind of instructors you have, or the dancers that you have, it creates such a very again more beautiful community. So yeah,
And then to
love
your
that.
point, just in terms of what you're doing and how you structure everything, everyone becomes a representative of your brand. So if I'm out there in California dancing and if I'm wearing an Acacia shirt, then people will know, oh, that's Acacia. So,
Yep.
through the dancers as they're out in the world, it trickles back to you
Yep.
and the culture
Yep.
there. Yeah.
What does marketing look like for you? How are you able to kind of like put your business out there and have such a diverse group of people?
Well, honestly, my I love making flyers, so I take a lot of I put a lot of time into aesthetically making the flyers, making them look I guess aesthetically pleasing. But I'll say the marketing for sure is through honestly just social media. I didn't do too much. It was just Connecticut is heavily involved in dance. I didn't know that. So it honestly just kind of flowed. And of course, like word of mouth and, showing the progress of students, showing what they're doing in class, showing the term pattern, showing the footwork, showing everything that we're learning at Acacia or that we're doing or teaching at Acacia has worked, especially with the performance teams. Although performance teams, the purpose of me having performance teams is for them to perform and to get into the salsa community that I was a part of. That I'm still a part of, excuse me, but that I came from. So that's the reason why I did the performance teams. However, that also markets itself because now you get to firsthand see, oh wow, they're training. She didn't dance like that a year ago. He didn't dance like this a year ago. It's seeing a student's progression, which has been working because that's just feedback that I have gotten. But honestly, it's just been social media and my performance teams that have been doing most of the marketing, and also the events that I've held at Hageo Social. I invest a lot into making sure that we have a great videographer, photographer, great artists, and just showing that we're providing the quality and putting it out there on social media, which has been working. But yeah, that's about it. I am not honestly. I didn't. Again, as I mentioned, I didn't start this with a business plan. I didn't know what I was doing. Honestly, everything just kind of just like, I guess we're trying this now. We'll work, see what works. We'll see what doesn't work. If I had more, I guess if I had more of a plan, things will be a little different. But I also like the fact that I didn't have a plan because now I'm kind of like forced at the moment to figure it out. I've been playing Captain Figure Out for like 2 years, so so it's just like
That'll
Best.
be your
That's the
title
now,
on
best.
screen.
yeah, it's been working, but now I got a grasp on it. Now
Yeah.
it's I have a system and everything's flowing. I have an admin staff. I have like different instructors now. So it's been working. But at first, I was a one.
Mhm.
It was a one man show, and it's been working. But now I delegate because yeah, it's been kicking up and it's. But
Which
yeah,
is the
but yeah,
journey
there's just
of a lot
marketing,
of,
social media, performance teams.
sorry. Yeah. Which
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
no worries.
what you're saying is the journey of a lot of entrepreneurs, especially when you start out on your own. So having delegated, what does wellness look like for you? Like, how do you keep yourself well, right? Because you're taking the thing you enjoy doing, you're teaching it. It's all about dancing, but is dance still joyful for you, or if it's not that, how do you stay balanced?
Girl, every time you see me at an airport, just know it's a wellness check.
Oh, good.
so,
Okay.
so
Travel is cool.
yeah, travel. Honestly, that's what it is. Like I'm like honestly, I kind of premeditated that after a Hangeo social, I'm gonna need like 4 days, 5 days off. I was like, where can I go?
Yeah.
So it's more so like wellness looks like for me knowing when your heavy seasons and your low seasons are gonna be, and in between, take a break
Hmm.
because for me, I'm a very actually I'm now a very social person. For me, like I'm very introverted. Everyone doesn't agree, but I'm very introverted. Excuse me, I'm very introverted. So I deal with people Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just in class, right? And I love it. I have no zero issues with it. Then on top of that, I have performance teams. So now it's still dealing with people, but also working on business ventures with the team, making sure that they look good, making sure that the product looks good. So by Friday, I'm like, but by Friday, I'm either at an event promoting Acacia, social dancing, which is another form of marketing that I did not mention before. Is just going to these socials and dancing, but also presenting myself at events as a director, as a leader of a dance company. But hey, we have a show Saturday. Oh, okay, now we have rehearsal Sunday, so it's kind of like a revolving door of the same stuff, which I again no issue doing. But I think you have to find one day for a few hours to just exist. However, I love dance so much that my form of existing is going to social. So I honestly create my own revolving door. So it's hard, but for me, it's connecting with friends, doing things outside of dance, which is very funny because all my friends dance. So
So,
yeah, so it's like but it's and then it's also like I go to social sometimes and I just don't dance. I'm just there for the vibes. I'm there to interact, there to talk to people because again, like if you do something too much, you start to like get tired of it, and I don't ever want to get tired of it. So I try to give myself some breaks, and I try to find different ways to like interact with the community. Whether it's hanging out with my friends or hey, I'm gonna go to my friend's house this weekend. Like it's just things like that. Just taking time for yourself for sure, and traveling. I will
yeah.
go on a trip any day. That you don't have to tell me twice and just get away. Because you also want to show up. You want to show up as your best self. You never want to. There's been times, and again, this is part of the learning experience. That there's times I've been 110% checked out, and I notice that I can't teach like this. These poor students are looking at me like this man's upset. And it's not that. It's just like, girl, rehearsal last night ended at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm tired. So it's like, it's that. But I learned to take time for myself. In lack of a better word, I know it was a whole spiel, but yeah,
No,
take
I
time
love
for myself.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're
Mm.
talking to travel, you're talking to Omni. I think Omni will travel in a minute.
I, in fact, I'm on a plane right now in my mind.
I was like, oh, it's a nice plane.
That's
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. You know what I really loved is that you are so involved in community. I've been hearing that throughout the conversation that we've been having is that you are in community. It exudes from you. And I feel as though that speaks volumes, especially when you are in the industry that you are in. I feel as though it's just natural. It's going to be easy for, people to be drawn to you, to be drawn to what you have created because you're out there, you're in
Mhm.
the community. You are putting a lot of energy into building your network, which is helping your net worth. I think this is awesome.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Oh, Cheryl, one of the questions that Cheryl and I like to present to our guests is what does harmony hustle mean to you?
Ooh, okay. So, what I really appreciate is that you try to dissect the why and why people do things. Because again, anybody who's taken a class, of course, there's people who've asked me, what does Acacia mean? What's the meaning of Acacia? What's this, right? But people don't understand like the path that it takes to get to where they are in terms of just showing up and taking a class, right? There's so many moving parts, and I think for Harmony Hustle, it's understanding. Okay, this is the person. This is why they did it. This is who they are. Because there's always a face behind a business, no matter what business it is. It's always a face. But learning the why makes you appreciate where you are as a customer, a guest, a student. Because again, I would want to know who I'm working with before I divulge and like dedicate my time to. Because again, everyone is a part of the vision to some extent. Everyone's a part of the main central vision. So understanding like, hey, this is why they do things. This is why they do this. This is who they are. He's a nice person, or he could be a bad person. Who it's also like understanding that, so that way you can make the choice of whether you want to, you want to partake in this. You want to be a customer. You want to support, and I think it's good to kind of dissect that because it's like if people knew like why, it will make a lot more sense. It will make a lot more sense. Okay, this is why he's heavily involved. This is why he says community 9,000 times. And this is why he hosts his events. This is why his classes are in the studio. This is where he comes from. This is where he danced at. So now you get to learn the full picture and like, oh wow, okay, this is nice, or this is he means well. Because some people might just think I'm just here teaching salsa classes for fun, So it's just
Right.
like, it's that. So that's why I really appreciate. So yeah, that's what I would that will be my answer.
I love it. Love it.
Yes.
So, for anyone who is in Connecticut or maybe outside of Connecticut who want to come to Acacia, experience a session, maybe a private lesson, get good enough to join a team, whatever it is, where can they do that?
They can honestly just go on our website www.acacialatindancecompany.com, and then from there you can, if you want to personally talk to me, the chat button goes directly to my phone, or you can just sign up for a class on our book online option. Yeah, that's it. Everyone's welcome. I never decline a single soul. Everyone's welcome to take a class. We directly recommend starting with our salsa 101 class, because our classes do get progressively challenging. And the reason why I don't want people to get discouraged if they join a level like a advanced class and like, hey, I can't do this. But I'm like, hey, there's a salsa 101 class that you can build up to. But in terms of our performance team, just take class and then you either get invited or you can join in on our audition. So it's either one of the two. I have invited people to our performance teams from class. I'm like, hey, you should stay. So but yeah, that's about it.
Well, Christian, thank you so much for your time, the conversation. I appreciate it so, so much.
Yes.
Thank
And,
you.
Same.
we will seeing you
Thank you.
in class on the dance floor for sure. And our goal is to get to Ohangeo and just support and experience it as well. So,
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I do.
yes,
Thank you.
Awesome.
you're welcome.